Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We continue with our special coverage of this day, June 25th, 2026. 2 years since the Gen Z protests that took place, and because of that, Kenya then was on the precipice of a change. And many would say that a lot of those changes that they looked for didn't happen. This is the Situation Room, and here on KTN, as well as on Spice FM, we're going to look into the headlines now and see what is making the news. Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. Gen Z's second anniversary. Our heroes, the pictures of the people whose lives were lost in this fight. And we call them by name for them to be remembered. Their names are there on the front page of The Standard. And it goes on to the back page. Rest in peace. Those are the things that we say about our heroes today. We're looking into some more pages. In The Standard today on page 2, Murkomen contradicts police on demos. Traders appeal for peace. Headlines in that story: Nairobi Regional Police Commander Issa Mohammed said the protests were illegal because they had not been notified. But Interior Cabinet Secretary said police had received notification of a plan to hold the demos. So, which is which? You want to ask the question then, which is which? What's happening?
I tell you what happened.
Well, somebody was told something, that's for sure.
You see, when you have a body, right, there is the head and the neck.
Yes.
In this situation, the head is on the right, the neck is on the left. They are not
They're not coming together.
No.
Somebody was told something, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
So they've been called demonstration, there's a commemoration, there will be march to where there's something. But in all of this, the business community is saying, can we have some, can we just make sure that it's peaceful?
Yeah.
Parents of the youth killed in the 2024 protests are saying too little, too late. Especially when it comes to compensation. You're hearing that it's about 3 million shillings that these families are being given. Flags, flowers to mark Gen Z protest day events. Flags and flowers, not wielding weapons or anything like that, but flags and flowers coming in peace. Abductees recall ordeals, tortured but unbroken. I think it's interesting that this story plays out today because we did see that certain people, from the morning when, the questions about who wanted to come out and protest on the 25th, then were either visited. We had confirmation of certain people arrested yesterday. And the question then is for what?
We're supposed to have an individual in studio. He couldn't make it because officers were outside his house.
Sent us videos through the day to continue letting us know that he couldn't make it out of his house. We don't know then what happened later on in the day. But then we saw, folks like Bob Njagi arrested in Kitengela. And it continues. Gen Z martyrs who march for change paid with their dear lives. That's a story that we'll continue to highlight. And plights of hundreds of Gen Z protesters languishing in jail. It still continues that there are some people who are still in jail because of these protests. And that's the story we're looking to. State starts payout for victims of protest-related rights violation, the 3 million shillings that we had talked about. Face the truth. Ruto under fire for accusing the Standard of blackmail is a story that's carried on page 6 of the Standard this morning. And of course, there was that whole back and forth yesterday of who did what or who didn't do the other thing. And we were granted an 8-day week. So, yay for that. TSC explains higher pay AYE deductions in June pay. What they want to then be able to do with that. The Teacher Service Commission says the higher pay as you earn deductions in June salaries resulted from a correction of payroll systems annually. So every year they have to, tweak a little bit here and there. The clarification comes after widespread complaints from teachers who noticed that their pay had reduced and they had to go to social media before TSC now said, oh, we've gone to social media, let's explain to you exactly what has happened. Fun.
You have an anomaly. Who's the accounting officer? It's like yesterday we were being told it was a tagging error. So we also have that at TSC. Now you have to come later, deduct more, then explain. Why don't you explain first to the teachers, then go deduct?
You would imagine that if it's a yearly thing that happens, because you know how you have like every now and then the sun phenomenon, where now you go back about 10 minutes, it's expected that it's going to happen. In a case like this, you don't have gremlins in your accounting system. It should be somebody who's sorting things out. Victims, kin, and survivors to lead vigil in Kisumu. That is happening in a different part of the country. obviously, as well. And looking into other pages then and seeing what's making the news, how DIG Lagat became the face of the Gen Z crackdown, linked directly to what happened with Alberto Juan. He was arrested following a complaint by the DIG over social media posts. He died in police custody. And so an autopsy concluded he had been tortured and strangled. What was then done with that information? Your guess is as good as mine.
True.
In terms of what's going to happen as concerns the case.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. One of the most idiotic explanations ever given on how someone died in a police cell. He ran straight to a wall.
Several times.
Hit his head. And
Several
died.
times in order to bring death. I mean, it's the same thing as Robert Oko, who shot himself and then
doused himself with petrol.
Doused himself with
lit
acid
himself
and lit himself up.
Same way people are abducting themselves in 2024. And
The same way.
Same. Okay.
Kind of the same way. So the ODPP has decided to prefer murder charges, 16 murder charges against these 9 girls. So of course, when you look into that, you'll understand that there are different classes and that more than one girl will get more than one charge.
Yeah.
Do you understand? In terms of what they've been able to find out. Utumishi girls, students face 16 murder charges. 8 of the 9 students of the Utumishi girls linked to the fire that killed fellow learners will be charged with murder in Nairobi tomorrow. Not manslaughter.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but murder in this
Murder.
case. Because here, obviously now, according to the ODPP, there looks as though there was an intent to. And so there you see that's where the difference is. This follows a successful application by the state to have the matter transferred from Naivasha to Nairobi, citing the safety of the students, despite opposition from the families of the victims and the accused. It also emerged that the state dropped charges against one of the girls who was accused of setting a dormitory fire on the 26th of May, which led to the death of 16 students. So 8 of them then get the charges. One of them, the charges have essentially been dropped.
Yeah.
Finally, the IEBC has told you that the campaign period will be next year. So for all avoidance of doubt, this period that we are in right now is not campaign period.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody was confused.
Right.
The IEBC now has officially said that, first of all, they've called for security agencies to decisively act on violence indicators. And as the DP leader, Muturi, accuses the IEBC of sidelining opposition in key electoral processes. So we are looking at that they have declared that it is the second Tuesday of August that the general election will hold. I believe it is August 11th. 10th, I beg your pardon. And then we will campaign from May. Do you understand? Anything else that happens before then is not campaigning.
Let me ask.
It's a pre-match.
So that means all the campaign that we've been seeing is illegal.
No, it's not campaign.
It's not campaign.
It's not campaign.
Do you understand? We'll tell you, they said, if IEBC has said that the campaign does not start until May 2027, all these things that you've been doing before then is not campaigning.
It's not campaign.
Do you understand?
Okay. Okay, I'm going.
May 29th to August 7th is when you will campaign.
Yes.
I wish
So everything that you will see before then is not campaign.
it's not campaign. So it is just people
riding atop vehicles.
riding top of vehicles, promising
launching.
and giving new promises and saying, mukinipigia tena, nikirudi, nitamaliza kazi. That is not campaign.
That is not campaign.
No, it's not. Because IEBC has said the campaign period is from May 29th to August 7th. Got it?
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Hapo ndio tuko.
Hapo
Okay.
ndio tuko.
So, of course, some of the opinion pages and what we're hearing, AI won't turn us away from God. It will draw us even closer to Him. These are the opinion pages from Elias Makua this morning. Should errant leaders be barred from, learners be barred from exams? These are some of the things that are happening in Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. You do want to get yourself a copy of The Standard. We'll do it for 8 days. Over to you.
Yeah, so let's go to the Daily Nation. And as you can see, that is the headline that we have on the Daily Nation right there. And it talks about the day that changed Kenya. And what day are we talking about? We're talking about June 25th, 2024, where on that pictorial right there, it is protesters along Kenyatta Avenue in Nairobi during the anti-finance bill demonstrations. That is June 25th, 2024. So it is the second anniversary, and on this day 2 years ago, anti-tax protesters stormed Parliament, forcing the state to shelve the draconian finance bill and dissolve the cabinet. Now, the demo casualties, at least 50 people were killed and dozens injured, most of them by police gunfire in the aftermath of the Gen Z protests that shut down the country. And hurting victims 2 years after uprising, survivors still live with pain and trauma. But the state has unveiled a payout for families of those killed or maimed during the riots. There was a conversation that was there last night. Gotta give flowers to Ian Ketanyi and Bentura Kwamboka for an amazing conversation with the victims, their families, you know, on what must be done. And one thing that was being said is, first of all, the victims and the families have not been contacted, especially those who were there. Only, I think, one gentleman had been contacted, and even then he was raising concern on the amount that has been given to him, because what is being labeled vis-a-vis what the doctors say are two different things, you know. So there is that as well, that is ongoing. And State Assurance Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen says peaceful and unarmed protesters will be protected by police, but once goons plotting chaos will be punished. Perhaps Mr. Murkomen needs to be told that as you speak at the moment, even peaceful protesters cannot access the CBD because his police officers, the people that he oversees, have blocked the roads. So because he's also a lawyer, a learned fella, understands the Constitution, he was actually also in the Constitution making promise, tell your guys to allow protesters to get to the streets, no? Sinikatiba. I'm assuming he would understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, June 25th, the day that changed Kenya, that has been well expounded on page 2 and page 3, and here Murkomen vows crackdown on leaders mobilizing protest goons. So he's now saying that the government will crack down on the leaders who are mobilizing goons in the protest. That means that information, just that, he is admitting that he has intelligence on who are the organizers of the goons. So one would hope we see now arrests and people going to court.
Yep.
Now, how protest derailed Ruto's ambition to raise tax burden. Now, violent anti-tax demos in 2024 scuttled his plans to raise taxes to between 20 to 22% by the time he leaves office. So that is there on page 2. Now, the government steered clear of major new taxes this fiscal year. Now, traders still reeling from 2024 chaos, take precautions. And with that, we've seen that businesses actually, there's a high possibility many businesses will not open today because of fear of destruction of property. So that as well, you have to read it in terms of taxes that government will collect today, and that will definitely dip as well. So as we go to page 6, it is victims live with physical and emotional scars. So now, while the demonstrations ended, the consequences of that turbulent period still impact their daily lives. So that is June 2024 protest victim Mini Gadoni as there, who says, as we stood there, 3 police Land Cruisers passed. Officers in the 3rd vehicle were hanging outside, and one of them aimed his gun at me. This is how I was shot. What is she telling you?
Exactly.
I was just standing there, vehicle passed, I was shot. By who? A police officer. Now, one asked the question. Yesterday, there's a gentleman who was saying, that is Baba Brian. No, the boy who was killed in Rongai. They've been asked to take evidence to IPOA so that the matter could be heard. And they're asking the question, what evidence do we give you?
If it's post-mortem,
yeah, if it's post-mortem, you have it. If it's investigating the police, it is IPOA who does the investigations. What evidence can I, as a Kenyan, give you to help with the investigations?
It's pretty sad.
Very sad.
Yeah, so after the Gen Z revolt, where are they? So that is the reflection on discovering the power of collective action, painful price, lives lost, and lessons learned. So those are individuals who are seen to be the front runners in the demos in 2024. That is what we have right there on the Daily Nation. Come on, you could look at the star.
Yep, the star is shining. Key stories. The State House race begins as IBC blows 2027 whistle. Story continues on page 4 to 5. That's the calendar you are talking about.
Yep.
The calendar of events. You know, all public servants have been given notice on when they should resign if they are willing, seeking to vie Continuous voter registration will happen in January, I think January 11th, and we will end by Feb 9th next year. Yeah. So there is ample time. I think they are talking to institutional preparedness.
Yeah.
And urging all stakeholders to start involving themselves and get ready. How I'm looking forward to compliance. This time round, things must be different.
To follow.
Yeah, the other big story is what you're talking about. They buried their children, but not their pain. It's about those who have survived, the victims of June 25th. And the story continues. This is the big story. I mean, not just today, because we've been talking about it weeks towards today. But the story continues. Gen Z families, they buried their kids, but not their pain. You know, one element that is rarely spoken about is the loss experienced by the survivors.
True.
You know, the parents, the dependents, the siblings, the neighbors, the friends, the girlfriends, the spouses. Those ones are nowhere. Even when they're talking about compensation, you don't hear about families being spoken to.
No, you don't.
So it's a tragic case, and like I said, in my opinion, these are economic heroes. May they rest in power, and we need to effect the change that was being sought in June 24 uprising. Stories continue, but I think also the most important one is when you go to page 8 of the Star. It says MPs put sugar board on the spot for allowing raw sugar importation. There's been a looming scandal where MPs have faulted Kenya Sugar Board for allowing irregular importation of raw sugar in the country without ensuring safeguards to protect consumers. The National Assembly's Trade Committee also found Kenya Sugar Board in contravention of the law after revelations that it is operating without a properly constituted board. So I think these are questions of quality control. We don't know what you're taking. You don't know whether it is fit for human or not. And this is not the first time this has happened. That story continues on page 8. On the same page, MPs fault diaspora PS Njogu for laxity in addressing welfare of Kenyans abroad. This is important, coming from a backdrop of, what do you call, CS Mudavadi. Remember the Russian story?
Yeah.
Kenyans still in the diaspora, their welfare is highly unknown. And of significance also, it is important for us Kenyans to note that Kuwait banned, I think, 27 countries as of yesterday from recruiting domestic workers. So a question arises, what happens to those, especially Kenyans, who are already in Kuwait and working as domestic workers? So this is important. I think that's why we need to pay attention to what the PS diaspora is doing. And MPs have accused the State Department of Diaspora Affairs for failing to adequately protect and assist Kenyans living and working abroad, despite rising cases of distress among migrant workers. More stories are to be found in the Star.
Of course. I just wanted to look at one story that, of course, is highlighted here. That, you know, there are a number of these stories highlighted through. But one thing that has come, just like you mentioned earlier, is that, you know, the families of these people have never been spoken to. And that all of this is happening, and it does seem a bit dreary. That 65 that's on the front page of the Standard today, that we find ourselves asking, how many of those 65 will actually meet justice? That it's possible that each of these 65 families will receive the 3 million shillings. But is that enough? Tortured but unbroken abductees recall ordeal. They're saying the things that we went through, we're not able to speak about them any longer. But that it still is happening. As late as yesterday, when people are being picked up. So what is the responsibility of government when it comes to saying, you know what, in a very overt public expression, we will not have these extrajudicial killings or abductions anymore? But then on the 24th, on the eve of the commemoration of this that happened 2 years ago, we still see people being disappeared. We still see people holed up in their homes for hours in the morning, not sure if they can get out, asking questions, what do you want with me? And the very threat that comes to them saying, well, you just come out.
You just come out to your offices.
And then we will see.
And then do you know,
what shadow are people living under still till now?
Yeah, and you see, the saddest part in all that is there is a court order that was given on the dress code of police officers and how they need to,
right.
to identify themselves to you. So here you have plainclothes officers who are telling you to get out. What is your service number? What is my offense? Why are you picking me up? Where are you taking me? Can I perhaps even have a call to my legal counsel? All those are not up for debate.
Nope.
It is you get out. You know, and it is so sad that even these things are being broadcasted live on television. We spoke about it early in the morning, yet it still continued till around 1 p.m.
Yep.
One asked the question then, what law are we using to run this country if the constitution that gives you the right to security, right for movement, right to speak up is being taken away from you? Then what law are these officers using to do what it is they're doing?
And you know, the making of a dictatorship, that's how it begins. First, they take away your rights, you know, and then they hide behind the burden of proof. Come and prove that you're innocent. You don't even know what the allegations are, you know. And as you rightly put it, we have a code of conduct. Our policemen, they know what they should do. If they need to arrest you, they even should be a warrant of arrest. You know, no one can just come into your house and take you like that. That is gang mentality. So it is unfortunate that we suspend the liberties that this country has experienced so far. But again, we suspend the constitution and we act at the whim of those who are in power. But I look back and I wonder, do you remember when C.S. Murkomen was held hostage in his own house by the former regime when Uhuru was the president? They tried to arrest him and he was calling, you know, left, right, and center. And here he is now, you know.
We never learn.
Unfortunately, that's what it looks like.
Tables turn.
This is the Situation Room, our special coverage of the commemoration of the Gen Z protest that happened 2 years ago. We're going to take a break and then we will get into our conversations when we come back. And of course, right here on KTN as well as Spice FM. So stay with us. After the break, we get into the conversations. Back in a moment.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.